for the second year in a row, at least in my eyes, it seems like the Cavs have, if not the toughest, one of the toughest schedules in all of basketball, and I have the numbers to back that up. Also, now with just 2 months to go until the season starts, I think it's time for us to do a new Eastern Conference top 5 rankings. Finally, a 4-team trade has been floating around the internet the past couple of days. Pretty ridiculous. Wasn't even gonna talk about it, but you know what? Why not? Even if there's a 1% chance for it to happen, I think it's interesting enough to have a little dialogue about it. Let's do all that right now and more on today's episode of Cav Daily. I'm your host, Paul Williams, back with another banger. At some point, if you appreciate the video and the content, make sure you sub so you're not missing out on any future updates, as I think things are about to start really cooking for the Cavs here in this next month. But let's start off with the schedule stuff because I don't think I can just say no doubt about it. The Cavs have the toughest schedule in the league, blah, blah, blah. But I think I do have some valid numbers to kind of give some perspective on what that schedule is for these Cavaliers. They do have the most back-to-backs. They have one of the most condensed schedules in the league. Their travel is kind of wacky. And though we don't really think about it from game to game, all the stuff that goes into that game, like the travel, how long they've been on the road, did they play the day before, or did they play 2 games in the last 3 days? That all matters to these athletes, and it does make a difference when we talk about particular games. And for whatever reason, the NBA loves to put the Cavs in tough situations, and that was no different with this schedule release, as the Cavs will be, despite making the Eastern Conference Finals last year, will be on national TV only 17 times, which is the 14th most in the NBA, behind teams like the Rockets, the Mavericks, the Warriors, the Heat, the Timberwolves, the Pistons. Just some teams that I don't know. I could see in some cases why I guess people would want to watch those teams play, but also Cavs team is just so ultimately slept on. It is insane, but we kinda like it that way, honestly, so we're not tripping, and then when we talk about back-to-backs and things of that nature, the Cavs are also the top team when it comes to those things, as they will have the most back-to-backs this season. Honestly, it's pretty similar to last year. I believe, last year we were a top 5 team in the NBA in back-to-back. They have 16 total back-to-back this season, which is, of course, playing games on 2 consecutive nights. That's tied for first in the league with 5 other teams. They also have 23 game stretches of 3 games in 4 nights, which is the 6th most in the NBA, and they have the 6th lowest rest advantage games, which is calculated by net rest, tied with another 5 teams. So, there's gonna be a lot of situations where the Cavs are either playing in a back-to-back, coming off of a stretch where they just played 2 games in 3 days, or they might have a day in between, but the travel still gives them the rest disadvantage. So the schedule isn't going to be easy by any means, but that's part of NBA basketball. And when you're located where Cleveland is, there's going to be some times when we have some tough stretches. That's just kind of how it goes. The Cavs preseason schedule has also been released. They'll face the Celtics on October 8th, followed by a back-to-back against the Orlando Magic on October 11th and October 13th. The first one will be at home. The second one will be in Orlando. So we do have all the information now about the Cavs schedule. And with all that information, I feel like this is a perfect time to really highlight and talk about, at least in my eyes, some of the biggest games and biggest stretches of this season. So now that we know the disadvantages the Cavs have as far as the schedule goes, let's talk a little bit about some of the biggest games throughout the year. Starting off in October, I think that's an easy one. Opening the season in Philadelphia against the 76ers. Can't really put my finger on exactly why they have us opening in Philadelphia this season. Just kidding, of course. But that is the biggest game of the first month of the year. And then as soon as we get out of October, things get real as the Cavs have no time to kind of find themselves this season, with November, at least in my eyes, being by far their toughest month of the year. If you remember last season, they got off to a slow start, kind of were up and down in November, but didn't have a gauntlet of games. So luckily, they were able to keep their head above water. If they start off slow this year, it could be a problem because their November schedule is crazy. They started off with a November 2nd home game against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Then they go to Oklahoma City on November 4th for their only game against a Western Conference team before 2027. So October, November, December, the Cavs will only have one Western Conference trip, and that's to OKC on November 4th. And then they keep going in November. A couple days later, they will have a back to back against the Philadelphia 76ers and the New York Knicks. That'll be on the 6th and the 7th. So between November 2nd and November 7th, 6 days, they'll face the Thunder twice, the 76ers once, and the Knicks once. It's kind of crazy. Then on the 11th, they'll face the Knicks again. On the 13th, they will face Miami in Miami. And the 11th is also in New York. So those are two away games. Then on the 25th, they go back to New York for their third game of the month against the New York Knicks, their second in New York. So that's going to be a very tough stretch for our Cavs. We'll see how they can manage getting through a gauntlet to start the season. Things slow up a little then in December. Their schedule is much lighter. And really, the only thing to highlight and keep our eye out for is the NBA Cup games. Hopefully, the Cavs do advance so we can watch some NBA Cup quarterfinals, semifinals, blah, blah, blah. That's really what we have to look forward to in December. In January, there's a few interesting games. The ones that really stood out to me were the Cavs hosting the Pistons twice on the 16th and on the 27th. And they also have a game against the Nuggets. That will be interesting. And then in February, the Cavs have a tough stretch of 4 days, the 9th, 10th, and the 12th, where they'll host Toronto, travel to Indiana the next night, and then a night later, they'll go to Toronto again to face the Raptors for the second time in 4 days. Then in March, the Cavs have another date against the Philadelphia 76ers. They will also face the Knicks or I'm sorry, they'll also go to Detroit for their final game against the Pistons on the 9th. And then on the 16th, they will go to Golden State for their only game in Golden State this season. And in April, we all know there's only a couple games. They have a game against Indiana that could matter for seeding, but the biggest game to me in April is the game on April Fool's Day, April 1st, when they host the Boston Celtics in a game that could easily impact the final standings going into the playoffs. So those were just at least month by month, the biggest games in my eyes and what stood out to me about the Cavs schedule. Now, just some one-off information about the Cavs schedule. The total days in the regular season is 172. So they'll play 82 games in 172 days. The longest time the Cavs will be in Cleveland for a homestand is 9 total days, 4 home games during those 9 total days. So that'll be a good reprieve and a time for the Cavs to kind of regroup, get some home cooking, and have a good amount of days off, which they don't see much throughout the regular season. They will have 17 weekend games that will be at home, 2 on Friday nights, 9 on Saturdays, and 6 on Sundays. And then their longest trip will be 10 days away from Cleveland when they go on a 6 game road trip in March when they face the Warriors, Lakers, Clippers. Uh, the normal suspects when we go on our long West Coast road trip. Usually that happens in January or maybe February. It's happening in March this year, which is different than the previous couple years. We'll see if that has any effect on the Cavs. And then finally, as I stated earlier, the only game against the Western Conference in 2026 before the calendar changes to 2027 is going to Oklahoma City to face the Thunder on November 4th. What do you think about that schedule? Do you think the Cavs will be fine? Can that November gauntlet kind of put us behind the 8 ball so much that we're playing catch up the remainder of the season? Or do you think the Cavs will be fine? The schedule is what it is, and it doesn't really make a difference. Let me know in the comment section so we can revisit that sometime soon. And now to switch things up a little bit, like I said, I wasn't really going to touch in on it, but I feel like why not? It's been out there, it's been floated around. Now, Yahoo has picked it up, Sporting News has picked it up, and it is a ridiculous four-team trade that has been proposed by numerous writers and now, for whatever reason, is gaining some traction. Again, guys, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just relaying this to you. I'm not saying this is going to happen. Not saying I want this to happen. Not saying any of those things. So let's not yell at the messenger. But the trade is between the. Oh, I am so sorry, guys. I am tripping. There we go. This is what you're supposed to be seeing. We are going to review the proposed trade between the Houston Rockets, the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Detroit Pistons, and the Los Angeles Clippers. Obviously, going to be a lot of moving parts when there's four teams involved, especially when the type of names gets thrown around that are getting thrown around. And the trade would consist of the Cavs giving up Max Struess, a 2028 first round pick, three second round picks, and Jared Allen. And they'll be bringing in Kevin Durant from the Rockets and Jalen Duren from the Detroit Pistons. The Cavs will actually also send out Sam Merrill. I forgot to add that one in. And with that, I don't know. Just from the Cavs' point of view, in my eyes, giving up too much. But the rest of the trade is the Rockets would receive Harden. Damn, I didn't even let me re go over this. The Cavs are sending out in total Max Strus, James Harden, Jared Allen, Sam Merrill, and a bunch of picks, which, come on, man, we're not doing that. And the Cavs are bringing in Kevin Durant and Jalen Duren. The Pistons would receive Jared Allen, Max Strus, a 28 first rounder, and some second round picks. The Rockets would receive James Harden, Sam Merrill, and a 2031 first rounder. And the Clippers would receive Duncan Robinson. So, for all the Cavs' intent and purposes, bring in Durant and Duren, send out Jared Allen, Strus, Sam Merrill, and some draft picks along with James Harden. I mean, I would love the idea of having Kevin Durant and Jalen Duren on our team. But first of all, the biggest issue I have outside of us sending out way too much in my eyes is bringing in Jalen Duren and then having to pay him the max extension he's looking for. That's going to get into the like 170 over 4 years range. And I just don't feel comfortable paying Jalen Duren 42, 43, 44 million dollars per year for the next 4 years, especially after his playoff shortcoming this year. Yes, he is still young, still developing. He did make all NBA third team. But at the end of the day, just because you have that accolade doesn't mean you're a max player. And while I like Jalen Duren, he is just way too limited offensively to invest that much money in between Duren, Mobley, and Mitchell. Cavs would have over $150 million tied up. Don't know if that's a winning strategy going forward. And then, of course, you add in the super high salary of Kevin Durant, and it just financially it's a nightmare. And basketball wise, yes, I'd love to have Durant starting at the three and Durant at the five, but in my eyes, we're downgrading going from Jared Allen to Jalen Duren, and I think we saw that in the playoffs this season as Allen had his way in that matchup. And while we're, of course, upgrading at the small forward, that's at the price of Sam Merrill, Max Strus, and James Harden. And that's on top of a bunch of first rounders and a couple second rounders. Just don't see it. I mean, I get the thought behind it. The Cavs are in a situation where with the East improving so much around them, do they just throw out like a Hail Mary and try to shake things up and go for it all? But this trade would put us in a situation where like we literally need to win this year or it's not looking great. It would be hard to keep Durant around long term. And what is long term for Durant, who is in his late 30s now, doesn't have much time left. And while I'm not the biggest Harden fan, we do need a ball handler. We do need a facilitator. Who's our starting point guard in that situation? We just traded Dennis Schroeder. So you're telling me now trade James Harden, not bring back a point guard, and start the year with what? Donovan at the one, Tyrese Proctor at the one, Malik Thomas at the one. It's just not working. And if we think Jared Allen sometimes limits Evan Mobley in the big man duo with his lack of shooting and his lack of offensive prowess, it would be even worse with Jalen Duren. While Allen, yes, we know he's not an offensive savant. He does have more touch around the basket. He is a better finisher, a better pick and roll guy, just an all around better offensive asset than Jalen Duren is. So it's a downgrade there. Really, we shake up our entire team, downgrade at numerous spots just to add Kevin Durant and upgrade at the three. I'm good on that. I'd love to have Kevin Durant on this team, and I wouldn't mind having Jalen Duren on this team either. But why would, after seeing the Pistons not be willing to pay Jalen Duren what he wanted this summer, why would we be the idiots that jump in and say, hey, we'll pay him the max money and strap ourselves for the next 4 or 5 years? No, thank you. Kind of ridiculous trade, but just thought I'd throw it out there because it is gaining steam, and I keep seeing it all around the internet. But yeah, the Cavs are not sending out Jared Allen, James Harden, Max Drew, Sam Merrill, and a bunch of first rounders to bring back Durant and Duran. Just ain't happening. But what do you guys think? Would you do this deal? Would you do a deal similar to this? And do you agree with me that Jared Allen is better than Duran? And that's the direction we should continue to go. Let me know in the comment section because I do know some people are desperate for a move to be made, even if it is one that, in my eyes, shortens up our championship contending window and makes us worse right now today. There's just no upside in my eyes for that trade. But what do you think? Let me know. And to wrap it up today, guys, we have our newest edition of the Cavs Daily East Top 5 rankings every few weeks. And during the season, we do it every week. But in the off season, every few weeks, we're going to touch in and see where the teams stack up in the Eastern Conference currently. Of course, it is the off season, so it's a lot of speculation and a lot of going off of projections, but that's what we can do right now. We don't have actual games to work with at the moment. So we are going to project. And with that, we'll start off with our honorable mentions. We have three honorable mentions because these are three teams that I wouldn't be surprised if they finish the fourth seed or the fifth seed in the East. I just don't see them there right now. We have the Indiana Pacers with Halliburton coming back, of course. The Boston Celtics, who always seem to compete, I do think they've lowered their ceiling a notch or two, but they'll still be some type of playoff team. Then the Miami Heat, that's a team I think is being still highly overrated. Don't see them as contenders just yet, but they do get an honorable mention. And now with the top five, at the number 5 spot, we have the Toronto Raptors. Could have them in the 3 or the 4 spot, but with the stuff going on with Kawhi and the NBA still investigating, just don't know what that's gonna look like, what his suspension will look like, etcetera, etcetera. But once they do have Kawhi, if they still get him, and he's added to the young team they already have, I do think they're gonna be a problem. I do think they're top 4 team in the East, so the 5th ranking is kinda just saying, "Yes, I think they're one of the top tier teams," but they have some questions right now with the Kawhi situation. Then at number 4, this was tough for me. The Detroit Pistons. I really played with putting every team I've just named above the Pistons in this 4 spot, but we'll give them some respect after winning 60 games and being the number 1 seed last year. They did lose Tobias Harris, which I do think will hurt them. They did add John Collins to kind of make up for that. They still have the Duran issue, and I just think they were a bit overrated last year. Yes, they had a very good regular season, no knock to them there, but I think they played over their heads in the regular season, and then the playoffs, they were a bit exposed. So 4 is probably the highest I'm gonna have the Pistons, unless they start off dominating the regular season again this year. Then at number 3, we have the Philadelphia 76ers. Of course, they have the upside to be a top 2 team in the East, maybe even a number 1 team, but they do have the downside of being a playing team. I hope we realize that. I hope we know having 5 big names doesn't mean you're automatically a great team. Still have to find a way to make it work. So many question marks with LeBron being 76 now, Joel Embiid playing on his 13th knee, Tyrese Maxey pretending that he's not going to care about having the ball in his hands when we get to the regular season. I think he's going to find out he needs the ball in his hands to be the Tyrese Maxey he wants to be. Jalen Brown just left Boston after playing in the shadow of Tatum for so long. Don't now know how encouraged he will be playing in the shadow of LeBron, Tyrese, Joel Embiid, and then VJ Edgecombe. RIP your progress because he will not be getting any better this year. I could basically guarantee that. But just for the roster and the starting five alone, we'll give him a top three spot for now at the number three position. Then at number two, we have team that finished second in the East just 3 months ago, our Cleveland Cavaliers. Yes, a lot of teams have made moves around us while we haven't really done much besides swap out Dean Wade and Mario Hazonia. But I still think we're fine, man. I still think that we're being overlooked and that our roster is built to compete. Like we have stars at every position except for the starting small forward. And if the Cavs do complete a trade after getting some more financial flexibility with the Schroeder trade, I don't see how they're not a top 3 team in the East. Maybe in the regular season, we don't finish with a top 2 or 3 record, but that doesn't mean they're not a top 2 or 3 contender in the East. Regular season records doesn't automatically mean that's where you stack up against your competition. So, in my eyes right now, the Cavs are still the second best team until proven otherwise in the East. And with all those teams listed, obviously at number one, still have to give it to them, the defending champs, the New York Knicks. I don't love them. I don't truly believe in them that much to match what they did last year. I think everything broke their way perfectly last year for them to win the ship, but they did win it. So for now, they have to hold down the number one spot in the Eastern Conference rankings. But what do you guys think? Because I know a lot of people don't agree with me. I know a lot of people think I'm way overrating the Cavs at number two, but I just don't see it that way. Like I said, we were just in the Eastern Conference Finals. We dang sure could have beaten the Knicks, at least made it a very tight series. And I don't think the difference between the Cavs and the Knicks is nearly what it looked like in that series. So I feel good having the Cavs ranked there. But what do you think? Where am I wrong? Where am I right? Let me know your top five and let me know how you feel about that mock trade, our schedule, everything along those lines, because I will be reading viewer comments tomorrow and I need to have some bangers to read. With that, we're getting out of here for the day, guys. If you're still here with me, you already know you're a real one. Hit that sub, hit that like, hit that comment, and let's re engage tomorrow.